The path we walk is rarely smooth. Sometimes the ground is soft moss, offering gentle passage. Other times it is sharp shale that cuts the soles of our feet. Tonight we acknowledge the sting. We do not turn away from the ache that settles deep within the chest, the tightness that sometimes grips the jaw, or the confusion that clouds the mind's clear mirror. This suffering, though unwelcome, is not a curse laid upon us, nor is it a punishment. It is merely a signal, a wise finger pointing toward a door we have yet to open. We seek not the end of the journey, but the stillness within the journey itself. Let us begin by recognizing the immediate weight, the small, sharp burden we carry, and learn how to set it down, realizing that the first lesson suffering offers is the necessity of letting go. Part 1. The weight of the pebble and the first breath. We begin in the awareness of a persistent irritation. Imagine it not as a vast, crushing mountain of sorrow, but as something deceptively small, yet acutely sharp, the pebble lodged inside the shoe of the spirit. It is not the mountain that stops the journey, it is the pebble. It is the persistent, localized friction that demands attention, that prevents comfort, that makes every step a slight, jarring reminder of imbalance. Take a moment now to locate this pebble within your own being. Where does this small, sharp anxiety settle? Perhaps it rests behind the eyes, manifesting as a dull pressure, a refusal to soften the gaze. Perhaps it is a knot, tight and unyielding, just beneath the ribs, where the breath catches slightly, never quite achieving its full, expansive depth. Or perhaps it is a subtle, humming tremor in the hands, a restlessness in the feet, a longing to shift, to escape the moment of sitting still. Acknowledge this immediate, localized pain, this small, relentless teacher. Do not judge its size, merely recognize its insistent presence. We will not try to yank the shoe off quickly, nor will we ignore the pain and continue walking. Instead, we pause. We sit down gently upon the earth, knowing that the first act of wisdom is the recognition of imbalance. Now, place your attention entirely upon the breath. This is the oldest, most reliable anchor we possess, the unwavering presence that exists outside the story of the pebble. Draw the air in, slowly, deliberately. Feel the cool, dry air as it crosses the threshold of your nostrils. Notice the delicate, almost imperceptible widening of the nasal passages, the faint, internal touch of the air against the sensitive lining. This intake is not rushed. It is a profound, slow gathering, a drawing up of stillness from the deep well of the earth. Allow the breath to travel without resistance, sinking down, 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 filling the lower chambers of the body first, like water settling into the base of a silent vase. As you inhale, feel the abdomen gently rise, not the chest, not the shoulders, but the soft, yielding center of your being. Let the rise be slow, continuous, and profoundly smooth, reaching a point of natural fullness without strain, a quiet apex where the breath hesitates, suspended for a single, perfect moment. And then, release. Let the exhale begin, not as a force, but as a gentle, quiet surrender. The air that leaves is warmer now, carrying with it the subtle heat of the body, the microscopic residue of tension. Feel the abdomen soften, sinking back toward the spine, slowly, completely. This is the soundless sigh of the nervous system, a quiet declaration that, for this moment, you are safe. The pebble is still there, perhaps, but the grip around it has loosened. We will repeat this slow journey of the breath, and with each cycle, we will create a small yet significant distance between the self and the suffering. Inhale. The cool air cleanses, entering the body like a balm. Feel the subtle expansion, the rising tide of calm. The shoulders remain heavy, relaxed, resting upon nothing but the air. Exhale. The warm air releases, flowing out like a river returning to the sea. Feel the muscles of the face slacken, the tension around the eyes dissolving. The jaw unhinges slightly, releasing the words and worries held captive there. Let the breath become your sole focus, the single thread of reality you are willing to grasp. The pebble of worry, the sharp edge of regret, the friction of fear. All these mental constructions begin to recede, moving to the periphery of your awareness, like clouds drifting far above the steady mountain peak of your consciousness. With every slow, deliberate exhale, imagine that you are sweeping away the dust of yesterday's judgments and tomorrow's anxieties. The breath is not merely oxygen, it is the movement of presence. It is the tangible act of inhabiting this very moment, which is always, fundamentally, still. Draw the next breath in, focusing on the texture of the air, the way it flows over the tongue and down the throat. It is a quiet, liquid motion, refreshing and deep. Let the chest open slightly, not in stiffness, but in gentle acceptance, receiving the gift of life without condition. Hold the breath lightly at the top, just for a count of 1, a moment of pure, suspended perfection. And now, empty the lungs completely, slowly, until you feel the gentle suction, the final, subtle drawing in of the diaphragm. Release everything. Release the need to fix. Release the need to understand. Release the need to be anywhere but here, resting. We recognize that the initial suffering, the sharp sensation of the pebble, is merely a fact. It is the immediate, unavoidable consequence of walking the uneven path of life. Yet, suffering rarely remains a simple fact. It transforms. It grows roots. It becomes a heavy, continuing burden, not because the pebble remains, but because we choose to carry the memory and the judgment of the pebble long after we have sat down to rest. This brings us to a quiet teaching, a simple Zen parable that speaks to the true nature of the burdens we carry. Imagine 2 monks, Tanzan and Aikido, traveling together down a muddy road. The rain had been heavy, turning the path into a slippery, viscous mire. As they approached a curve in the road, they came upon a beautiful young woman standing helplessly at the edge of a deep puddle. She was dressed in a fine silk kimono and could not cross without ruining her elegant clothing. She looked distressed and unable to proceed. The younger monk, Aikido, immediately averted his gaze, strictly adhering to the monastic rule that forbade any contact with women, especially young ones. He stiffened, preparing to pass by quickly, his mind already reciting the rules of separation. But the elder monk, Tanzan, did not hesitate. Without a word, he simply walked over to the woman, scooped her up effortlessly in his strong arms, and carried her across the deepest part of the mud. He set her down gently on the dry side of the road. The woman bowed deeply in gratitude, and the monks continued their journey in silence. They walked on for many hours. The sun began to break through the clouds, drying the road. They passed through villages and forests, the sounds of their sandals marking the rhythm of their silent trek. The younger monk, Aikido, grew increasingly agitated. His mind became a churning mill of thoughts. He reviewed the rules, he judged Tanzan's actions, he considered the implications, the potential defilement, the violation of their holy vows. He carried the image of the woman, the feel of the mud, and the sight of Tanzan's strong arms, all bound up in a tight, internal knot of judgment. Finally, as the day began to dim and they approached the gate of the next monastery, Aikido could hold his silence no longer. His voice was tight with suppressed emotion, the weight of his carried thoughts pressing down upon his chest. "Tanzan," Aikido said, his words sharp with accusation, "we monks are forbidden to go near females, especially young and beautiful ones. It is dangerous and distracting. Yet you carried that girl across the mud." Tanzan stopped and turned to his companion, his expression calm, his eyes clear like mountain pools. A soft smile touched the corner of his mouth. "Ah, yes," Tanzan replied, his voice gentle and low. "I put the girl down hours ago, back by the muddy road. Are you still carrying her?" Let the wisdom of this simple exchange settle into the quiet space you have created with your breath. The initial suffering, the pebble in the shoe, was the mud, the necessary action of crossing the obstacle. That was the unavoidable event. But the true, prolonged suffering, the weight that burdens the spirit and tightens the chest, is the continuous carrying of the judgment, the memory, and the story of the event. Aikido's suffering was not caused by the woman or the mud. It was caused by his inability to set down his own internal rules and accusations. He carried the weight of the pebble for hours, long after the obstacle had been overcome. Now, return to your breath and examine the weight you carry. What is the girl you are still holding? Is it a harsh word spoken yesterday? Is it a mistake made last year? Is it the fear of a future that has not yet arrived? We will use the exhale now as the physical act of setting down that unnecessary burden. Draw a deep, slow breath in, gathering all the tension associated with this carried judgment, the weight of Aikido's confusion, the tightness of his rules. Feel it collect in the center of your chest, a dense, dark cloud of rumination. Pause at the top. Recognize the weight. Now, release it completely. Exhale fully, slowly, letting the warm air carry away the entire narrative of the past event. As the breath leaves your body, visualize the burden dropping from your arms, falling silently to the earth. It is done. The event is over. The lesson is learned. The carrying is no longer necessary. Inhale. Peace enters, filling the space where the burden once rested. Feel the lightness that comes with an empty mind and an open heart. Exhale. Release the story you tell yourself about your suffering. The suffering itself is the teacher. The story is the cage. Let the bars dissolve with the gentle rush of air. Notice the stillness that begins to permeate your awareness. This stillness is not the absence of sound, but the absence of internal resistance. It is the realization that if we are not actively carrying the pebble, it ceases to cause friction. Allow your entire body to become heavy now, sinking deeper into the surface that supports you. Feel the simple, undeniable reality of gravity, a force that asks nothing of you except surrender. Your arms are heavy, resting without effort. Your legs are weighted, anchoring you to the earth. The muscles around the eyes are completely smooth, the gaze internal, soft, and unhurried. The suffering was a teacher because it forced you to stop walking, to sit down, and to examine what you were carrying. It demanded attention to the present moment, which is the only place where true release can occur. With the next breath, feel the air moving slowly and deeply, tracing a path of profound relaxation through the core of your being. Imagine a warm, golden light spreading from the center of your chest, radiating outward, dissolving any residual knots of anxiety that remain. This light is the calm acceptance of what is, without the need for judgment. The pebble is gone. The journey continues, but the step is now lighter. We have learned the first lesson of true enduring peace. The heaviest burden is the one we refuse to set down. Rest now, entirely within the rhythm of your breath. Feel the gentle, continuous flow of air, in and out. This simple, perfect cycle is all that is required. Let the mind rest upon the breath like a leaf floating upon a calm, dark pond. There is no need to chase the thoughts that arise. Simply observe them drifting past, knowing they are merely the echoes of the pebble and not the solid ground of your being. Sink deeper into the silence, trusting the wisdom of the body to release what the mind has clung to. The suffering has served its purpose. It has pointed you back to the stillness. Embrace this quiet, profound peace. Part 2. The Mirror of Impermanence. The deep, velvet stillness of the air now holds you. You have arrived at the quiet threshold where the frantic searching of the mind begins to slow, recognizing that there is nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, save rest. Allow the subtle weight of this awareness to settle upon you, not as a burden, but as a comforting, heavy blanket woven from silence. Feel the solid, unmoving presence beneath your body. The sheet or blanket that cradles you possesses a texture that is uniquely of this moment. Perhaps it is cool and smooth against the skin of your cheek, or perhaps it has gathered the warmth of your own presence, holding it close to your limbs. Trace, in your inner awareness, the exact points of contact between your body and this surface. The back of your head, resting heavy and full, the broad planes of your shoulders, the length of your spine sinking slowly, vertebrae by invisible vertebra, into the support below. We speak now of suffering, not as a moral failing, nor as a punishment handed down from an arbitrary height, but simply as a symptom. Suffering is the friction created when the self, rigid and demanding, attempts to hold fast to a world that is, by its very nature, fluid and unbound. The fundamental law of existence, the gentle, irresistible truth, is anicca, impermanence. Everything changes. Look up now, not with the strained effort of your physical eyes, but with the soft, inner gaze of your mind. See the vast, high expanse of the night sky stretched above you, an infinite canvas of deep, absorbing indigo. High within this silent ocean, witness the slow, majestic migration of the clouds. They are the mirror of impermanence. Observe one cloud in particular. It might be a mass of soft, silver-grey vapor, illuminated slightly by a hidden moon or the distant glow of a city light. Notice the distinct, tangible shape it holds in this moment. A mountain peak, perhaps, a kneeling figure, a great, silent ship sailing the stellar currents. Hold that image gently in your mind, without forcing it, without trying to arrest its motion. Now, wait. Do not hurry the perception. The cloud continues its silent journey, driven by currents unseen, felt only by the air itself. Observe how the edge of that cloud, once sharply defined against the dark velvet of the sky, begins now to soften, to fray, to surrender its outline to the surrounding vastness. The peak is no longer sharp. The ship's mast dissolves into a wisp. The shape you identified only moments ago is already gone, replaced by something new, something equally transient. Cloud does not struggle against this dissolution. It does not cling to its mountain peak form. It simply allows the wind to reshape it, to pull it apart, to merge it with the adjacent air. This change is not a failure. It is simply the nature of cloud being. Your thoughts, your feelings, your moments of joy and, crucially, your moments of pain move across the landscape of your mind in precisely the same manner. They are vaporous formations, gathering density for a time, casting a shadow or reflecting light, only to soften, dissipate, and eventually vanish into the clear space of awareness. When pain arises, whether physical or emotional, it is often not the initial sensation itself that causes the deepest distress. The deepest distress is born of the mind's desperate whisper, "This must stop. This must not change. This must remain." Or, conversely, "This good feeling must stay forever. I must prevent this moment from dissolving." This resistance is where the current of life meets a rigid, unyielding dam. And the dam, being fixed, takes the full, painful pressure of the ceaseless flow. Imagine now that you are standing beside a great, slow-moving river. This river is the uninterrupted flow of time and experience. The water is cool and dark, carrying fallen leaves, fragments of bark, and the reflections of the high, moving clouds. You reach down and attempt to scoop up a handful of this water. As your hand cups the liquid, you might hold it for a single, brief second. But the water, being water, immediately begins to slip through the spaces between your fingers. If you clench your fist tightly, desperately trying to imprison the water is gone all the faster, squeezed away by the very intensity of your grasping. All that remains in your tightly clenched fist is the effort, the strain, and the painful knowledge of loss. The river, meanwhile, flows past your feet, completely indifferent to your attempt to capture it. It is already miles downstream. The effort to hold on to a moment, or to push a moment away, creates the clenching in the mind that translates directly into tension in the body. Feel now, if you can, the subtle rigidity residing in your body. Perhaps it is a slight gripping in the jaw, a tiny, unnecessary pressure where the upper and lower teeth meet. Let that soft muscle surrender. Allow the jaw to unlock, the tongue to rest heavily in the floor of the mouth. Perhaps the tension resides in the shoulders, held high, slightly hunched, bracing against a blow that is not coming, or guarding against a burden that is not currently being carried. As you exhale, imagine the weight of those shoulders becoming liquid, melting downward, spreading out across the surface beneath you. Each muscle fiber that releases its grip is a small act of acceptance of anicca. It is the body saying, I do not need to be rigid. I do not need to be prepared for eternity. I need only be here, now, flowing. Consider the rhythm of the tide. Listen, in your mind's ear, to the soft, distant murmur of the ocean, the sound of water meeting the shore and then retreating. The tide never attempts to hold the sand. It visits, it washes clean, it retreats, it returns. Ebb and flow. Anicca made audible. When the tide comes in, it is full and powerful, surging up the beach, covering the dry, exposed stones. This is like a wave of strong emotion, a moment of intense joy or a sudden, sharp pang of sorrow. It fills the landscape of the mind completely. But the tide does not stay. It pauses at its highest reach, that brief moment of fullness, and then, without struggle, without regret, it begins its long, slow withdrawal. The water pulls back, exposing the wet sand, leaving behind only small, glittering pools and the intricate patterns of the foam. If the shore were to resist the tide's withdrawal, if the sand were to try and hold the water in place, the shore itself would be ripped apart by the sheer force of the ocean's movement. The shore survives because it is yielding. It allows the water to come, and it allows the water to go. This is the lesson of the mirror of impermanence. You are the shore, vast and enduring. Your experiences, your thoughts, your feelings, your pains are the tides. Do not try to hold the water. Simply allow it to wash over you and allow it to recede. Feel the physical relief that comes with this understanding. You do not have to fix the moment. You do not have to solve the current emotional state. You need only observe its movement. Take a deep, slow breath now, drawing the air gently into the center of your being. Feel the expansion in your ribcage, the subtle lift of your abdomen. This inhalation is a moment of fullness, a moment of receiving. It is a temporary state. Now, release the air. Let the breath flow out smoothly, completely, softening the chest, sinking the body deeper. This exhalation is a moment of surrender, a moment of letting go. It is also a temporary state. The space between the breaths, that brief, sweet pause, is the purest realization of anicca. The breath you just took is gone. The breath you are about to take does not yet exist. You rest completely in the fluid, ceaseless motion of the now, which is always changing, always moving. If you find your mind snagging on a thought, a worry about tomorrow, a regret about yesterday, a sharp memory, do not chastise the thought. Do not try to crush it or push it away. That is resistance. That is the clenched fist trying to hold the water. Instead, Recognize the thought simply as a cloud passing in the sky of your awareness. Note its shape. Ah, this is the worry cloud. Note its texture. It feels heavy, grey, and dense. And then, watch it move. Without effort, without guidance, the internal winds of the mind will carry it along, softening its edges until it dissolves entirely. This practice is the gentle dissolution of the rigid self, the I that demands stability where there is only flow, the I that insists on joy remaining and sorrow departing. When we stop demanding that the river stands still, we cease to suffer the pain of the dam. There is a simple Zen tale of a monk who was traveling across the mountains in winter. The snow was falling heavily, and the monk sought shelter in a small, remote hut. He found a fellow traveler there, huddled miserably by a meager fire, shivering uncontrollably. The traveler complained bitterly to the monk, "The cold is unbearable. This snow is a punishment. Why does the universe inflict this unending chill upon me?" The monk listened patiently. He then turned to the small fire and began to stir the embers, adding a few small pieces of dry wood. As the fire began to flare up, casting warm light and scent into the hut, the monk spoke softly. "The cold is not a punishment," he said. "It is simply cold. It exists entirely outside of your opinion of it. The suffering you feel is not the cold itself, but the resistance you hold in your heart against the fact of the cold. You wish the world to be summer, but the world is offering winter." He paused, looking into the traveler's eyes. "If you accept that the snow is falling and that the air is cold, then your mind is freed from the task of fighting reality. You can then use that freed energy to gather wood, to tend the fire, and to wrap yourself tightly. The cold remains, but the suffering dissolves into the quiet acceptance of what is. Allow yourself to receive this teaching deeply into your body now. The pain, whether it is an ache in the lower back, a tightness in the chest, or a persistent mental worry, is simply the cold of the moment. Do not fight it, do not judge it, do not assign it blame or meaning. Simply acknowledge its presence. This is the sensation of tightness. This is the feeling of restlessness. And then, invite the surrounding space to soften. If the tightness is a hard knot, imagine the river flowing over it, eroding the sharp edges, transforming the knot into something smooth and yielding. The river does not try to destroy the stone. It simply flows past it, and in doing so, reshapes it over time. Your breath is the river. With every inhalation, you receive the moment. With every exhalation, you let the moment flow away. Feel the deep, restorative weight of your legs. They have carried you through the demands of the day, through the landscapes of effort and urgency. Now, they are completely at rest. Let the muscles soften so deeply that they feel heavy, warm, and immobile. The skin of your forehead is smooth and relaxed. The tiny muscles around your eyes, which have been tasked with gathering and interpreting the ceaseless stream of visual information, are now completely released. They are sinking back into the soft pockets of your skull, heavy and dark. The whole landscape of your body is now adopting the yielding quality of the shore, accepting the ebb and flow of sensation. You are allowing yourself to be reshaped by the current moment, rather than fighting to maintain a rigid form that belongs to the past. Remember, the suffering that arises from resistance is always temporary. The moment you recognize the resistance, the moment you choose to open your clenched hand, the pressure begins to dissipate. The river flows on, unimpeded, and you are no longer the dam. You are the clear banks, the silent observer. Allow the thought of the future to drift away like a high, thin wisp of cloud. Allow the memory of the past to sink like a stone into the deep, dark water of the river, carried away downstream, completely inaccessible to your present grasp. There is only this moment, and this moment, by its own nature, is already dissolving, already becoming the next. This ceaseless, silent movement is the deepest source of peace. Because if all things are changing, then all difficulty is also temporary. The pain is a visitor. The anxiety is a guest. You are the host, offering them a quiet place to rest, knowing they will soon continue their journey. Sink deeper now into the surface beneath you. Let the gentle force of gravity pull you down, dissolving the last rigid structures of your mental effort. Your body is heavy, warm, and profoundly still. The mirror of impermanence shows you that there is nothing to fear in the change, only freedom in the flow. Rest now, in the quiet certainty of what is always true. Everything passes, everything yields, and in that yielding you find deep, profound peace. Part 3. The empty boat and the release of blame. The night deepens its embrace, drawing the shadows inward, making the world outside feel vast and distant, yet bringing the world within into sharp, delicate focus. We turn now toward the silent labor we often perform, the exhausting task of assigning blame. We carry the heavy ledger of perceived wrongs, meticulously noting who caused the pain, who was responsible for the misstep, who disturbed the still water of our expectations. This assignment of fault is a profound source of suffering, a tension that coils deep within the core of the body, tightening the breath and hardening the heart. Let us explore the nature of this suffering, not as a punishment, but as a teaching, using a story often shared by the Zen masters, the tale of the empty boat. Imagine yourself seated quietly on the bank of a wide, slow-moving river, the water the color of polished jade under the soft, diffused moonlight. You are alone in a small skiff, drifting gently near the shore, perhaps fishing, perhaps merely watching the intricate dance of the dragonflies that skim the surface. The air is thick and sweet, with the scent of watermint and wet earth. The silence is profound, broken only by the occasional soft plop of a fish rising and the low, continuous hum of the summer night. You are perfectly still, your mind beginning to settle, the surface of your awareness growing smooth and reflective. You feel the subtle, rhythmic motion of the water beneath the hull, a gentle cradle rocking you into deeper ease. Your eyes, half closed, register the faint shimmer of light reflecting off the ripples, an endless, mesmerizing pattern of silver and black. Suddenly, from around a bend upstream, you see another boat drifting toward you. It is moving quickly, carelessly, propelled by the unseen current. It is headed directly for your small craft. You watch it approach with a growing sense of irritation. Your breath hitches slightly in your chest. The peaceful moment you had cultivated is about to be shattered by the recklessness of this approaching vessel. You begin to feel the familiar heat of annoyance rise in your throat. How dare they, you think? They are disturbing my peace. They are not paying attention. They are going to strike my boat. The muscles in your shoulders instinctively tighten, preparing for the impact, preparing for the confrontation. You are already composing the words of rebuke, the sharp correction you will issue to the careless passenger. Your jaw clenches, setting hard against the anticipated conflict. The boat draws nearer, closer still, until you can see the rough texture of its weathered wood, the peeling paint on its gunnels. You brace yourself for the collision, the inevitable jarring shock, the argument that will follow. The anticipation of conflict is almost worse than the conflict itself, a corrosive acid eating away at the stillness you had just found. Then, the impact comes, a dull thud against the side of your skiff. Your boat rocks sharply, sending a spray of cool water across your hands. The anger surges, a hot, blinding flash, ready to find its target. You turn, ready to shout, ready to assign the blame that is so clearly due. But as you look into the other boat, you see nothing. It is empty. There is no one at the tiller, no passenger slumped in the bow, no careless hand guiding its path. It is merely a vessel, untethered, driven solely by the force of the current and the whims of the water. It is simply a thing, a piece of wood moved by circumstance. In that instant, the surge of anger drains away, utterly and completely, like water sinking into dry sand. The heat in your throat vanishes. The tension in your shoulders instantly softens. The words of rebuke dissolve before they can be formed. How can you be angry at an empty boat? The collision still occurred. Your peace was still momentarily disturbed. But the vital ingredient for sustained suffering, the intentional antagonist, the target for your blame, is absent. When there is no one to hold responsible, the emotion of anger has nowhere to land. It cannot sustain itself. It simply dissipates, leaving behind only the simple reality of the event. A boat bumped your boat. Nothing more. Now, bring your awareness back to this quiet space, to the soft cushion beneath you, to the gentle rhythm of your own breathing. Consider how much of the suffering we carry through the day is born from encountering what we perceive as full boats, people who seem careless, unkind, or intentionally malicious. We assign intention to their actions, projecting a narrative onto their movements, assuming they are actively steering their boat toward ours, seeking conflict. Yet, how often are these full boats merely empty? How often are the actions that disturb us driven not by deliberate malice aimed specifically at us, but by their own currents of fear, confusion, exhaustion, or simply unconscious habit? They are driven by their own inner weather, their own unseen tides. They are, in a profound sense, empty of the conscious intention we assign to them. Take a slow, deep breath, drawing the air in through the nose, feeling the cool rush of the inhale. As you exhale, let go of the need to assign fault. Release the heavy labor of the mind that seeks to catalogue the reasons why things went wrong or who is to blame for the discomfort you feel. Feel the profound lightness that comes when the weight of judgment is set down. When you realize that the external world, the traffic, the harsh word, the unexpected delay, is often just an empty boat, driven by forces independent of your own being. The suffering attached to these events is not the impact itself, but the anger we generate by insisting there must be a careless captain steering the collision. Let us use this realization to soften the physical tension we hold, the tension that prepares the body for battle against these imagined antagonists. Bring your awareness now to your face, specifically to the areas around your eyes. Feel the tiny, fine muscles that encircle the orbits of the eyes. These muscles often hold a subtle, persistent strain from the effort of continuous focusing, continuous assessing, and continuous judging the visual world. We are always scanning, always seeking patterns, always looking for the source of the next disturbance. Allow the muscles around your eyes to become extraordinarily soft. Imagine the skin over your brow relaxing, smoothing out like a sheet of silk draped over still water. Feel the lids themselves grow heavy, resting gently against the curve of the eyeball. Allow the eyes to sink back slightly into their sockets, releasing the forward tension of the gaze. Let the sight behind your eyelids be soft and unfocused, a gentle, welcoming darkness. There is nothing here to judge, nothing to fear, nothing that requires your intense scrutiny. Just the deep, velvet darkness of rest. Now, move your attention down to your jaw. The jaw is the fortress of our unexpressed arguments, the anchor of our stubborn resistance. When we clench our teeth, we are often holding back the words of blame, the protest, the judgment we wish to hurl at the empty boats of the world. Feel the powerful hinge muscles where the jaw connects near the ears. Notice if there is any stiffness, any persistent, unconscious grinding or bracing. This tension can radiate down the neck and up into the temples, a chronic background hum of readiness for conflict. With your next exhale, consciously invite the jaw to soften. Let the hinge release. Allow the slightest space to open between your upper and lower teeth. The tongue can rest heavy and broad on the floor of the mouth, not pressing against the palate or the teeth. Feel the muscles of your cheeks slacken, softening the entire lower half of your face. This release of the jaw is a physical declaration of peace. It is the body saying, I am no longer preparing for battle. I am no longer holding the argument. The argument is over, not because you won, but because you realized there was no one opposing you, only the indifferent current of life. Let the softness in your face deepen, radiating peace across your skin. The eyes are soft, the jaw is loose. This stillness in the face translates directly into stillness in the mind. When we stop judging the world with our eyes and stop bracing against it with our jaw, the internal narrative of conflict begins to fade. Now we turn our attention to the surrounding environment, to the simple soundscape of the night, and apply the wisdom of the empty boat to what we hear. In this quiet space, listen for any sound, the distant sigh of the wind, the faint creak of the house settling, the persistent chirp of a cricket. Often, when we hear a sound, the mind immediately rushes to assign it a meaning, a story, or a threat. That sound means someone is awake. That sound means something is broken. That sound is too loud and is disturbing my rest. But what if we treat every sound as an empty boat? A sound is simply a vibration in the air, a movement of energy. The wind is not angry, it is just air moving. The cricket is not insistent, it is just vibrating its wings. The distant siren is not threatening, it is just a pattern of rising and falling tones. Listen now, without assigning a narrative. Let the sounds enter your awareness, acknowledging their presence without judging their volume, their source, or their timing. Hear the low, steady rush of your own blood, a deep, internal ocean sound, constant and comforting. Hear the gentle friction of the fabric of your clothing against your skin as you breathe. These are the sounds of your living presence, immediate and harmless. If a louder external sound intrudes, notice the mind's tendency to recoil or complain. Then gently remind the mind, empty boat. This sound has no intention. It is not directed at me. It is simply a temporary event in the vastness of the night. Allow the sound to pass through your awareness, much like the empty boat drifting past your skiff. Do not clutch at it. Do not push it away. Just observe its arrival, its duration, and its eventual fading back into the deep cushion of silence. The silence itself is not an absence, but a presence. A quiet, receptive space that holds all the sounds, without judgment. Rest in that receptive silence. Feel the deep relaxation spreading throughout your body, rooted in the realization that you are safe from intentional harm, safe from the need to constantly defend yourself against forces that are, in truth, simply indifferent. The shoulders are heavy. The arms are resting, the hands are loose, the torso is still. The breath flows easily, a slow, deep river moving through the center of your being. As you breathe out, let the last remnants of anxiety about external conflict dissolve. You are not responsible for steering the empty boats of the world, nor are you responsible for the narratives they carry. Your only task is to remain still in your own skiff, centered and unperturbed, allowing the currents of life to flow as they will. We often imagine that peace requires the world to be perfectly still, perfectly quiet, and perfectly accommodating. But true, profound peace, the peace of the awakened mind, is independent of these conditions. It is the peace that remains when we stop assigning blame, when we stop seeking the careless captain, and when we recognize the essential emptiness of all transient phenomena. You are resting now in that essential peace. The jaw is slack, the eyes are soft, and the mind is free from the exhausting duty of judgment. You are sinking deeper into the ease of non-resistance, finding rest not in the absence of disturbance, but in the release of reaction. Let the breath continue its slow, comforting rhythm, carrying you deeper into stillness. Every inhale is a quiet affirmation of presence. Every exhale is a surrender of the need to find fault. You are safe. You are still. You are free. Rest here, in the quiet wisdom of the empty boat. Part 4. The Fire of Purification and Essential Self. We settle now deeper into the quietude, sinking further into the soft foundation beneath you. Allow your awareness to rest gently upon the slow, rhythmic rising and falling of your own breath. This breath is the subtle anchor that holds you steady, even as the landscape of your inner world shifts and changes. Inhale the stillness of the deep night air, and exhale the lingering tension, letting it drift away like the faintest wisp of vapor on a cold morning. We have spoken of suffering not as a punishment, but as a teacher. If suffering is indeed a teacher, then one of its most profound lessons is that of purification. It is often experienced as a devastating heat, a sudden, consuming flame that seems determined to reduce everything we hold dear to ash. Yet, if we look closer, if we observe the nature of fire through the lens of wisdom, we see that its true purpose is not destruction, but refinement. Imagine for a moment that the worries, the attachments, the old, brittle self-conceptions you carry, all the things you believe define you, but are, in truth, merely accumulated dust, are like dry, fallen brush in a vast, ancient forest. They are highly flammable. They catch easily. When the fire of suffering sweeps through, it is these non-essential things that are the first to ignite. Listen closely to the sound of this purifying fire. It is not the violent roar of an uncontrolled inferno, but the steady, cleansing crackle of dry twigs yielding to heat. Hear the sound of old resentments, those dry, thorny vines wrapped around the heart, snapping and crumbling into fine powder. Hear the brittle shells of expectation, what you thought life should be, what others should do, curling at the edges, turning black and dissolving. The fire is meticulous. It seeks out the superficial, the things that cling to the surface of your being, stealing light and air. It burns away the need for constant approval, the heavy, elaborate costume of the false self you have worn in the presence of the world. It burns away the titles and the labels, the stories you tell yourself that limit your potential, the fears that whisper that you are not enough. These are the fuel. They are necessary only so that the fire may consume them. Sense the heat now, not as pain, but as an intense, focused energy. This heat is designed to reveal what is truly unburnable within you. Focus your attention on the places in your body where you have historically stored these flammable attachments. Perhaps in the tightness of your jaw, the clenching of your fists, or the guarded position of your shoulders. As the purifying warmth touches these areas, allow the tissues to soften. Let the heat work its gentle, profound alchemy. The suffering we experience often feels like a test of endurance, yet it is merely a process of refinement, much like the firing of clay. Consider the parable of the potter. The potter takes soft, malleable earth, the raw, formless potential of the self, and shapes it carefully on the spinning wheel. But the work is not complete when the vessel is formed. If the potter were to stop there, the vessel would be fragile, easily dissolved by the first rain, unable to hold the precious waters of life. The vessel must enter the kiln. The kiln is the place of intense, focused heat, the crucible of transformation. The clay endures hours of searing temperature. During this time, the vessel does not change its shape. That was determined on the wheel, but its nature changes utterly. The moisture of doubt evaporates, the impurities turn to vapor, and the very composition of the earth shifts. The vessel is hardened, sealed, made permanent. Only after passing through the fire can it truly fulfill its purpose. It becomes resilient. It becomes strong enough to hold. You too are this vessel. The fire of suffering is the kiln. It does not destroy the essential shape of your goodness, your compassion, or your inherent nature. Instead, it burns away the fragility, the porosity, the parts of you that were merely mud. What emerges is not a destroyed self, but an unshakable self, a vessel capable of holding the deep, clear waters of wisdom and peace. Allow yourself to feel the echoes of this great heat receding now, leaving behind a profound stillness. The intense flame is distant, but its warmth remains, lingering like the comforting glow of a hearth fire on a winter night. Shift your awareness from the external purification to the internal core. Imagine now that deep within your chest, beneath the protective cage of your ribs, there resides an ancient stone hearth. This is the dwelling place of your essential self. It is the core of stillness that has existed within you since the very beginning, untouched by the shifting tides of the world, immune to the external fires of suffering. This hearth is built of the strongest stone, the stone of inherent worth, of indestructible awareness. It is perpetually safe. Within its deep recess, a gentle fire burns, a constant golden flame that is not destructive, but purely sustaining. This is the fire of your own vital life force, the warmth of pure being. Fix your attention on this inner hearth. It is quiet. It is deeply reassuring. It requires nothing from you except recognition. Feel the warmth emanating from this center point. This warmth is the acceptance of the purification process. It is the realization that everything that burned away was non-essential. All that remains now is the polished, enduring truth of who you are. Begin to guide this gentle internal warmth. Let it spread slowly, deliberately, outward from the center of your chest. This is not the sharp, demanding heat of the forest fire, but the deep, abiding warmth of safety. It moves with the slow, viscous texture of warm honey, spreading across your collarbones, softening the muscles of your upper back. Feel the warmth begin its journey down your arms. It moves past the shoulders, which have carried so much unnecessary weight. Let the warmth dissolve the tension residing in the biceps and triceps, those places where you brace yourself against unseen threats. The warmth travels slowly down the forearms, smoothing out the skin and the muscle fibers, releasing any lingering need to grip or control. The heat reaches your hands. Notice the subtle, involuntary clenching that often resides in the palms and fingers. Now, allow the warmth to penetrate the bones of your hands, making them heavy, pliable, and utterly relaxed. Feel the warmth flow to the very tips of your fingers, bringing a sense of luxurious weight and surrender. Your hands are resting now, having done their work, accepting the deepest stillness. Bring your attention back to the core hearth, feeling the reservoir of warmth replenish itself instantly. Now, guide this peaceful heat downward into the lower half of your body. Let it move across the diaphragm, soothing the churning of the stomach, melting away any residual anxiety that has taken up residence there. The warmth flows into the hips, often the storage place for old, unreleased fears and emotional burdens. Imagine the heat penetrating deep into the hip sockets, softening the tendons and ligaments, freeing the deep, primal tension held within. Allow your hips to sink heavily into the surface beneath you, yielding their weight entirely to the earth. The gentle, purifying heat continues its descent down your legs. It moves through the thighs, relaxing the large, powerful muscles. These muscles are often ready for flight or fight, but now they recognize the safety of this moment. They recognize the completion of the purification. They are invited into profound rest. Feel the warmth flow past the knees, dissolving any stiffness or resistance there. It moves through the calves, releasing the tension that holds you perpetually ready to move. Let the warmth make your lower legs utterly heavy and immovable. Finally, the warmth reaches your feet. Notice the intricate network of bones, tendons, and muscles that carry you through the world. Allow this deep, golden heat to saturate every part of your feet, from the heel to the arch, to the ball of the foot, and out to the very tips of your toes. Your feet are now heavy, grounded, and deeply at peace. They are no longer required to stand or wander. They are invited to rest within the enduring silence. You are now entirely surrounded by the gentle, abiding warmth of your own essential nature. The fire of purification has done its work. The dry brush is gone. The superficial attachments have been released. What remains is the strong, resilient vessel of the self, resting securely around the ancient, unshakable hearth. This is the true self, stripped bare of fear and pretense. It is simple. It is whole. It is ready for renewal. There is nothing left to defend, nothing left to prove, and nothing left to fear. The suffering was merely the process, and the peace is the result. Sink deeper now, carried by this sense of profound warmth and acceptance. Let the heavy, relaxed weight of your body merge with the silence. You are safe. You are whole. You are resting in the unburnable core of your being. Allow the breath to become even slower, even softer, a gentle wave carrying you toward the deep, restorative quietude. Rest now, in the knowing that what remains is the truth. Part 5. The Teacher in the Thorn Bush. We settle now into a deeper stillness, allowing the outer world to recede like a distant tide. The breath has become a smooth river, its current unhurried, carrying us gently toward the center of the quiet space we inhabit. Feel the weight of the body, warm and substantial, resting upon the surface beneath. Do not try to lift or alter this weight. Simply let it be, a perfect declaration of presence in this moment. The air around us grows thick, almost velvety, absorbing any stray vibrations of anxiety or lingering thought. This is the texture of deep silence, not empty, but full of potential, rich with the subtle hum of the world at rest. We begin to walk, very slowly, toward a secluded corner of the mind's garden, a place less manicured, more wild, where the truest lessons often lie hidden. The path here is softer than the manicured lawns we have traversed before. It is cushioned by years of fallen leaves and the quiet, persistent growth of moss. Each step is deliberate, silent, sinking just slightly into the yielding earth. The light overhead is filtered, diffused by a canopy so dense that the world is painted in shades of deep emerald and slate grey. This subdued light encourages introspection, inviting us to look not outward, but deeply within the shadows that cradle our understanding. We are seeking the teacher in the thorn bush. The garden opens slightly, revealing a dense, sprawling thicket. This is the thorn bush, an unruly tangle of resilient wood, dark green leaves, and countless sharp points glinting faintly in the filtered light. It is beautiful in its uncompromising nature, a structure forged by necessity and defense. Approach it slowly, without haste, understanding that this is the place where friction lives, where resistance is materialized. Observe the thorns themselves. They are not accidental. They are extensions of the plant's will to survive, finely honed instruments of self-preservation. Run your gaze along the length of one sharp point. See how the light catches the tip, a tiny, concentrated spark of clarity. To touch this bush carelessly would bring pain, a sudden, sharp reminder of boundary and consequence. Yet, without the thorns, the bush would be vulnerable, its essence easily devoured. The difficulty is its strength. Breathe into this realization. The suffering, the friction, the sharp, difficult moments of the day are the necessary thorns that protect and define the boundaries of your spirit. They are not punishments, but teachers of resilience. Feel the air shift around the bush. It carries a faint, dry scent of wood and mineral, a smell of hard-won endurance. The silence here is different from the silence of the open path. It is dense, a quiet that has absorbed effort and struggle. Listen closely to the air itself. Can you perceive the subtle, almost imperceptible pressure of the atmosphere pressing against your skin? This pressure is constant, unavoidable, and yet it is what keeps everything anchored, stable, and whole. The friction of the air is what allows the wings of the spirit to eventually soar. As you stand before the thorn bush, acknowledge the moments of resistance you encountered today. Perhaps it was a conversation that snagged, a project that stalled, or an internal critique that felt painfully sharp. Each instance was a thorn, and each thorn, in its sharpness, provided clarity. It showed you where you needed to be more patient, where your boundaries needed to be firmer, or where your expectations were too rigid. Let your gaze settle on the deep, enduring green of the bush's leaves. They thrive amidst the sharpness. They draw sustenance from the same earth that supports the thorns. This is the lesson. Nourishment and difficulty are intertwined. You do not grow despite the challenges, you grow because of them. We turn now to a Zen parable that illuminates this truth, carrying the image of the thorn bush with us into the heart of the story. There was once a student who sought the deepest wisdom and traveled to study under a master known for his profound insight, but also for his unparalleled austerity. The master's reputation was daunting. He was known for his silence, his demanding tasks, and his refusal to offer praise or easy comfort. The student arrived at the remote monastery, ready to dedicate their life to the gentle path of meditation. Instead, they were immediately assigned the hardest physical labor. The master did not speak a word of welcome or philosophy. He simply pointed to a stack of rough, gnarled logs and handed the student a heavy, worn axe. Day after day, the student chopped wood. The axe was heavy, the wood was stubborn, and the blisters on the student's hands were thick and painful. The student's body ached with a deep, bone-weary exhaustion that seemed to defy the simple nature of the task. They had come seeking refined spiritual knowledge, subtle truths about emptiness and compassion. They found only the coarse, brutal friction of the wood grain and the relentless, unforgiving weight of the axe head. The master watched, always silent, seated high on a porch, observing not the quality of the chop, but the quality of the student's mind as it engaged with the resistance. The student's mind began to churn with frustration, a hot, agitated core of anxiety. "This is pointless," the mind screamed. "I am wasting my time. This is not teaching. This is punishment. This master is cruel and unfeeling." The student longed for a kind word, a gentle correction, any sign that their suffering was recognized and validated. But the master remained impassive, a still, enduring presence against the backdrop of the cold, misty mountains. The friction intensified. The student considered leaving a dozen times. They felt misunderstood, undervalued, and deeply hurt by the master's apparent indifference. Yet, something held them. A faint, persistent intuition, perhaps the echo of the thorn bush, whispering that the difficulty itself was the crucible. One particularly cold morning, as the student struggled to split a thick, knotted piece of oak, the axe rebounded violently, jolting their arms. In that instant of blinding, sharp pain, the student's frustration peaked, and then, inexplicably, it shattered. The student sat down on the cold earth, the axe falling beside them. They did not weep or rail against the master. Instead, they simply stopped resisting the pain. They looked at the blistered, bleeding hands, the aching back, and the pile of unforgiving wood. And in that moment of complete surrender to the arduous reality, they saw the truth. The lesson was not in the words the master refused to speak. The lesson was in the axe, the wood, and the relentless repetition. The friction was not meant to break the student, but to break the illusion of who the student thought they were, and what they thought enlightenment should feel like. The master was not cruel, he was precise. He had provided the perfect tool for honing the student's spirit, unadulterated, sustained difficulty. The student picked up the axe again, but this time the movement was different. There was no internal argument, no resentment, only the simple, perfect focus of the swing. The weight of the axe felt integrated with the body. The resistance of the wood was acknowledged without anger. The suffering had done its work. It had stripped away the ego's demand for comfort and validation, leaving only the pure, focused attention required by the moment. The master, observing from the porch, simply nodded once, a movement so subtle it was almost missed. He did not need to speak. The student had learned that the most demanding moments are often the most profound teachers. The hard, unyielding wood had taught resilience far more effectively than any gentle lecture. The sharpness of the pain had brought unparalleled clarity. Return now to the quiet garden, to the resilient, thorny bush before us. The weight of the body sinks deeper as this understanding settles. The difficult moments of your own day, the friction, the resistance, the moments that felt like punishment, were, in truth, the master's silent instruction. They were the tools used to shape and refine your awareness. Allow the mind to soften. We do not need to fight the memory of those difficult moments. We simply need to thank them. Let us practice this gratitude, allowing the simple act of acknowledgement to dissolve the lingering tension held in the muscles and the chest. Think of the frustration you felt today. Thank that frustration, for it showed you the depth of your own passion and commitment. It proved that you cared deeply about the outcome. Thank you, frustration, for showing me my heart. Think of the disappointment you carried. Thank that disappointment, for it taught you the necessity of letting go of fixed outcomes and reminded you that the path is more important than the destination. Thank you, disappointment, for teaching me flexibility. Think of the sharp edges of criticism or self-doubt. Thank those sharp edges, for they forced you to examine your foundations and solidify your inner truth. They were the friction that hardened your resolve. Thank you, difficult moments, for strengthening my core. As you thank these experiences, feel the corresponding tension drain from the body. The shoulders relax, melting away from the ears. The jaw loosens, releasing the subtle clench that often accompanies resistance. The hands, which may have been unconsciously curled into fists, soften and unfurl, resting gently against the surface beneath you. The thorn bush now, understood, is no longer a source of fear, but a symbol of fortitude. Its lessons are rooted in the earth, enduring and true. The strength it possesses comes directly from its willingness to face the elements and defend its own space. We absorb this strength now, a quiet, deep power that requires no aggression, only acceptance of the way things are. The breath deepens, becoming long and smooth, a slow, gentle wave moving through the body. Inhale the stillness of the garden, exhale the last remnants of the day's struggle. Inhale peace, exhale resistance. With every slow, deliberate exhalation, feel the weight of your body increase, sinking further, settling more comfortably. The surface beneath you is supportive, firm, a reliable anchor in the vast ocean of rest. Imagine yourself melting into this support, becoming one with the surface, no longer needing to hold yourself up or brace against the world. The texture of the silence deepens around you. It is no longer just quiet, it is a profound, resonant calm. It wraps around the mind like a soft, insulating blanket, muffling the distant echoes of thought. You are protected here, held perfectly by the present moment. Let the image of the thorn bush recede now, its lesson absorbed into the very fiber of your being. You have learned that the rough edges are essential. You are wiser, stronger, and more resilient for having encountered the friction of the day. Allow the mind to become expansive, like the dark, open space above the garden canopy. There are no boundaries here, only freedom. Thoughts, if they arise, are merely faint stars passing across this vast, open sky. Do not chase them, simply observe them as they drift into the distance. The body is now profoundly heavy, a beautiful, comforting weight. The sensation of sinking is a release, a surrender to the deep, gravitational pull toward rest. Feel the hips heavy, the legs weighty, the feet entirely still. The forehead is smooth, the eyes resting lightly behind their lids. Every muscle, every tendon, every nerve fiber is unwinding, releasing the microtensions accumulated throughout the day. This release is effortless, a natural consequence of accepting that the struggle is over and the teacher has delivered the lesson. You are safe. You are wise. You are perfectly placed for the deepest rest. The breath continues its slow, rhythmic movement, a gentle tide rocking you toward the shore of sleep. Listen to the sound of your own inhalation and exhalation. It is the most ancient lullaby, the constant, reliable rhythm of life itself. Sink deeper now. Let the mind soften further. Any lingering sharpness from the day dissolves into a warm, hazy comfort. You have faced the friction, you have learned the lesson, and now you are ready to rest. Allow yourself to drift on the current of your breath, sinking down, down, down into the soft, quiet earth of sleep. The stillness is complete. The relaxation is absolute. Rest now, deeply and peacefully. Part 6. The sound of one hand clapping. We have understood that suffering is not a punishment, but a profound teacher, guiding us always toward wisdom. Yet, the habit of the mind is to flee the present moment where the lesson resides. It is always either retreating into the shadow theater of past regrets or leaping forward into the uncertain mist of future anxieties. Suffering, in its most painful form, is merely the tension between what is and what we wish had been, or what we fear will be. To dissolve this tension, we must become utterly present. We must anchor ourselves so firmly in this exact moment, this cool air, this soft weight, this quiet breath, that the hooks of the past and the future can find no purchase. This anchoring requires a task, a gentle occupation for the busy mind, something that absorbs its focus without demanding a rational answer. We turn now to a famous Zen koan, a question designed to stop the thinking mind in its tracks, to force it into pure, unmediated awareness. Listen closely to the inquiry and let it settle in the deep, silent well of your being. What is the sound of one hand clapping? Do not attempt to answer it with logic. Do not strain to imagine a sound. Simply hold the question, letting it be a gentle, persistent hum at the edges of your awareness. It is a key that unlocks the door to the now. The weight of the koan and the blanket. The first step into presence is through gravity. Feel the immense, steady pull of the earth beneath you. You are not floating, you are held. The body is a solid, measurable mass resting upon the mattress, and the question, what is the sound of one hand clapping, is the soft, invisible weight resting upon the mind. Notice the physical reality of the blanket covering you. It is not merely a visual texture, it is a pressure, a subtle, distributed force across the landscape of your limbs. Feel the specific, comforting weight where the blanket drapes over the curve of your shoulder. Sense the way the fabric settles into the small valley between your collarbones, a soft, heavy seal against the cool air. This pressure is constant, reliable, and entirely present. It asks nothing of you except recognition. Trace the line of the blanket down your arm. Feel the slight compression on your upper arm, where the muscle is thickest, sinking slightly into the supporting surface. The weight lessens as it flows toward your elbow, where the bone is closer to the surface. Observe the way the sheet might cling slightly to the skin on your forearm, perhaps catching a tiny bit of warmth that your body has generated. This warmth is the sound of one hand clapping. It is the immediate, unanswerable reality of the moment. Continue down to the hands. If they are resting palm up, feel the way the air rests in the cup of the palm. If they are resting palm down, feel the pressure of the mattress against the knuckles and the subtle cushioning of the flesh below. The hands are utterly still, yet they are vibrating with an internal life, a faint tremor of blood flow, the slow metabolism of the tissues. This stillness, heavy and complete, is the answer to the koan. It is the sound of everything that is not moving, yet still exists. Let your focus drift to the weight pressing down upon your torso. The deepest, most substantial weight is centered here, over the chest and the abdomen. It is a grounding anchor. With every breath, the fabric rises perhaps a centimeter, then sinks back down. This movement is slow, rhythmic, and entirely involuntary. You do not need to command it. It simply occurs, a silent, internal clapping. Feel the deep, foundational support beneath your hips. This is where the body meets the earth most completely. Allow the muscles of the lower back and the glutes to surrender their last, lingering tension. Imagine that the mattress is made of warm, yielding sand, and your body is slowly, imperceptibly, molding itself deeper into its embrace. The bones feel heavy, dense, settled. This profound settling is the sound. When the mind attempts to dart away towards a memory of yesterday's conversation or a worry about tomorrow's schedule, gently bring it back to the weight. What is the sound of one hand clapping? It is the weight of your left ankle pressing into the surface. It is the way the heel sinks slightly deeper than the calf. It is the constant, unmoving presence of gravity. The inner rhythms, the pulse. Now shift your attention from the external weight to the internal rhythm. The present moment is not silent. It is a symphony of subtle, subterranean sounds. We will listen for the quietest, most persistent sound of all, the pulse. Place your awareness gently on your wrist, or perhaps the side of your neck, where the great artery runs close to the surface. You do not need to physically touch it. Simply guide your internal attention there. Can you feel it? The subtle, steady thrumming. It is the sound of life itself, a soft, powerful drumbeat marking the passage of time, not in hours, but in heartbeats. This pulse is utterly present. It cannot beat in the past, and it cannot beat in the future. It is only ever now. Focus on the rhythm. Lub-dub, lub-dub. It is a silent, rhythmic clapping within the vessel walls. Trace the journey of the blood leaving the heart. Feel the brief, powerful surge as the ventricle contracts, sending a wave of pressure through the arteries. This wave travels quickly, yet you can feel its distinct arrival at the periphery of your body. Sense the elasticity of the blood vessels. They expand slightly to accommodate the surge, then contract gently, maintaining the flow. This expansion and contraction is a continuous, silent conversation happening within you. It is the sound of one hand clapping, the sound of the body responding perfectly to its own internal necessity. Let the pulse become your sole focus. Exclude all other sensory input for a long moment, attending only to that quiet, steady drum. If your mind wanders, if it begins to construct scenarios or recall grievances, gently return to the lub-dub. The pulse is a pure, unadulterated manifestation of the present moment. It is the ground beneath your feet. Imagine the blood flowing through your fingertips. Feel the distant, almost imperceptible warmth it carries, nourishing the tissues, carrying away what is no longer needed. This flow is a river that never stops, yet it is always new. The blood that pulses through your wrist this second has never been there before, and will instantly be replaced by the next wave. This constant renewal, this immediate presence of the circulatory system, is the profound answer to the koan. We are asking for the sound of something that is seemingly impossible. One hand cannot clap alone. Yet, within the body, impossible rhythms are occurring every second, sustaining life without effort. The pulse is the sound of the impossible becoming the inevitable. Let the rhythm slow slightly as your body relaxes deeper into stillness. The heart is responding to the profound rest you are offering it. The space between the beats lengthens by a fraction of a second. This lengthening is peace. This quiet expansion is the deepening of your presence. The architect of breath. We return now to the breath, but we seek a new level of presence within it. We are not just observing the air, we are observing the architecture of the breath, the mechanics of its coming and going. This mechanism is the ultimate expression of the present moment. Inhale slowly. Feel the air entering the nostrils. Perhaps one side is slightly clearer than the other. Notice the immediate, cool sensation in the nasal passages. This coolness is the sound of one hand clapping. Now, follow the air down the throat into the branching passages of the lungs. Feel the ribs gently expanding outward, creating space. Sense the diaphragm, that large, dome-shaped muscle beneath the lungs, pressing downward on the abdominal organs. This subtle internal pressure, the displacement of your inner structures, is a silent, powerful movement. Hold the breath, not with tension, but with a soft pause at the peak of the inhale. In this tiny, suspended moment, there is no future breath, and the past breath is gone. This gap is pure presence. It is the sound of one hand clapping, perfectly silent, perfectly complete. Exhale slowly, letting the diaphragm relax and rise. The ribs contract gently inward. Feel the air warming slightly as it leaves the body, carrying away the residue of the moment. The exhale is surrender. It is release. Now, focus intensely on the transition. The moment the exhale ends and the inhale has not yet begun, this second, silent gap is the deepest well of presence. It is the void where all thinking stops. If suffering is the tension between past and future, then these gaps, the spaces between the breaths, are the moments where suffering cannot exist. Sink your entire consciousness into these gaps. They are the soundless answers to the koan. When the mind attempts to drift, the koan serves as a gentle return path. What is the sound of one hand clapping? It is the soft friction of the blanket against your chin as you turn your head slightly. It is the faint, high-pitched hum of the nervous system settling into rest. The koan as pure occupation. The great Zen masters gave these koans not to be solved, but to be lived. The question occupies the mind so fully that it has no energy left for habitual worry or planning. We are using the koan to create a firewall against the distractions of time. Allow the question to circle gently in the foreground of your awareness. What is the sound of one hand clapping? Do not search the room for an answer. Do not search your memory. Search only the immediate physical reality of your being. The sound is the feeling of your eyelids resting upon your eyeballs, a soft internal weight, a subtle pressure that seals out the visual world. The sound is the heavy languor spreading through the muscles of your jaw, letting the teeth unclench and the tongue rest softly on the floor of the mouth. This relaxation is a silent explosion of peace. The sound is the texture of the air on your skin. Is it uniform? Is there a subtle difference between the air touching your face and the air trapped beneath the sheets? This micro-awareness of temperature is the profound reality of now. The more the mind attempts to grasp the koan rationally, the more slippery it becomes, until the mind, exhausted by the nonsense, simply stops trying. When the thinking mind stops, the deeper, intuitive mind surfaces. This is the mind of immediate awareness. Imagine the question as a small, smooth stone placed in the center of a calm pool. What is the sound of one hand clapping? The stone settles, and the ripples spread outwards, touching the edges of the pool, but the water itself remains transparent and still. We are not listening for an actual sound. We are listening for the source of sound, which is silence. Listen to the silence that underlies all other sounds. There might be a distant traffic hum, the settling of the house, or the quiet ticking of a clock somewhere far away. But beneath those transient noises, there is an absolute, foundational silence. This silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of everything unmanifested. The dissolution of suffering in presence. When you are fully anchored in this moment, held by gravity, pulsing with life, breathing in the gaps, where does suffering reside? Suffering requires comparison, the present reality compared to a desired outcome. But when the mind is fully occupied with the sound of one hand clapping, there is no space for comparison. There is only the sensation of the blanket, the rhythm of the pulse, the rise and fall of the chest. If a memory of past pain attempts to surface, hold it against the koan. What is the sound of one hand clapping? The memory dissolves, because memory is a phantom of time, and the koan forces you into timelessness. If a fear of future failure attempts to grasp your attention, hold it against the pulse. The future is an illusion of projection, and the pulse is the undeniable reality of the immediate second. The fear cannot survive in the face of this profound, physical presence. The koan is the teacher. It shows us that reality is always whole, always complete, always perfect, exactly as it is. It is our mental division, our attempt to separate the two hands, that creates the pain. Let the body become heavier still. Feel the weight of your bones, the deep density of your hips and thighs. Surrender the final, subtle tensions held around the eyes and the forehead. Let the skin become smooth, unburdened by thought. The sound of one hand clapping is the deep, unmoving stillness of your body right now. It is the sensation of absolute rest. Sink deeper into the present moment. The question is no longer a puzzle, it is a lullaby. It is a gentle, steady hum that keeps the superficial mind occupied, while the deeper self descends into profound, restorative peace. You are here. You are safe. You are held. The constant, silent rhythm of your life sustains you. The sound of one hand clapping is the sound of your own being, fully and completely present. Let the koan fade slightly now, moving from the sharp edge of awareness to a soft, comforting background hum. You have anchored yourself. You are present. You are ready for the deep stillness that follows. Rest in the perfect, unanswerable silence of this moment. Part 7. The uncarved block. Moderation. Allows the profound stillness of the last breath to settle into the core of your being. We shift now, gently, away from the sharp edges of the lesson and toward the soft, round truth of your original nature. Imagine a single, smooth piece of wood. It is heavy and simple. It has no name, no function, no history of use or misuse. It simply is. This is the state we call pu, the uncarved block. It represents simplicity, wholeness, and the fundamental, effortless goodness that exists before the world begins to define us, to carve us into shapes of usefulness or pain. Feel the profound simplicity of lying here, breathing. You are not the achievements you collected today, nor are you the anxieties you attempted to discard. You are, in this moment, merely a body resting upon the earth, held by the gravitational embrace of the planet. Let the complex architecture of your identity begin to dissolve. Release the tension held in the scaffolding of your shoulders, the place where we carry the belief that we must be more than we currently are. Allow the shoulder blades to widen, sinking into the mattress beneath you, accepting the support without question or resistance. This is the first step back to the block, recognizing the simple, undeniable support that is always present. Notice the texture of your pillow against your cheek, or the silent, cool air upon your skin. These sensations are purely present, demanding nothing of you. They are the language of simplicity. We have spent so long believing that suffering is the carving tool that defines us, that the pain makes us wiser, stronger, or somehow more worthy. While suffering is indeed a teacher, it is not the source of your worth. The uncarved block is already whole. The suffering only obscures the surface, coating the wood with layers of varnish and dust, making us forget the smooth, inherent grain beneath. Invite your mind to shed the complex layers of these defining varnishes. Begin with your name. Whisper it silently, then let it go, realizing it is only a sound, a label assigned. Beneath the name, there is only awareness. Shed your roles: the parent, the employee, the friend, the seeker. Each role requires effort, maintenance, and expectation. Now, let these definitions slide away, like garments slipped from the body. You are not asked to perform any function in this moment. You are simply invited to be. Feel the relief in the hips as they surrender the weight of expectation. The pelvis, a strong basin, softens and spreads, finding its deepest point of rest. The muscles around the lower back, which habitually brace against the future, release their constant vigil. They become slack, warm, and deeply heavy. This immense weight is the weight of simplicity. It is the weight of the block, resting perfectly still. The true work of the uncarved block is effortless. It does not strive to be square or round. It simply retains the potential for all shapes, yet commits to none. It is pure potentiality, pure presence. Return your attention to the breath, that most effortless and fundamental rhythm. Observe the air as it enters your nostrils, cool and subtle, tracing a path of stillness down into the center of your chest. This is not a breath of exertion. It is the quiet, automatic hum of life sustaining itself. As the breath expands your lower ribs, notice that there is no striving here. The expansion is passive, an involuntary response to the need for oxygen. It is the universe breathing through you, not by your command. And as the breath leaves, a slow, continuous sigh into the surrounding silence, feel the body settle deeper still. Each exhale is a mini surrender, a gentle confirmation that you do not need to hold on to the air, the moment, or the self you were a moment ago. We are often taught that achievement brings peace. We chase the carved object, the finished masterpiece, believing the sharp edges of success or the smooth polish of perfection will finally grant us rest. But the Zen masters remind us that true peace resides in the uncarved block, in the simple recognition of what already is. Imagine the surface of this block now. It is utterly smooth, untouched by the knife of judgment or the sandpaper of comparison. Run your inner gaze over this surface. There are no ridges of resentment, no splinters of past regret. It is simply, fundamentally, good wood. The suffering you have experienced, the lessons learned, have indeed left their marks on your outer identity, the shell you show the world. But those marks have never, not once, penetrated the fundamental core of your being. Your kindness remains whole. Your capacity for stillness remains unbroken. Your original essential nature is preserved, like the heartwood deep within the block. Let us practice returning to this inner heartwood, this source of innate peace. Bring your awareness to the soles of your feet. Often, the feet carry the residue of our hurried lives, the echoes of steps taken in haste or anxiety. Encourage the muscles in your arches to soften entirely. Let the ankles go slack, allowing the feet to fall outward, heavy and unresponsive. They are no longer instruments of movement, but anchors of stillness. Feel the subtle internal warmth spreading through the tissue of your lower legs. This warmth is the heat of relaxation, the metabolism slowing down, returning to its quiet baseline rhythm. The calves, once taut from standing or walking, now rest entirely upon the surface beneath them, their function suspended until morning. Now, focus intensely on the space between your eyebrows. This area, known as the third eye, often holds the subtle tension of concentration, worry, or decision-making. Imagine a warm, thick liquid flowing slowly across this space, smoothing out the tiny, habitual creases. The forehead relaxes so completely that it feels vast, open, and utterly blank. The eyes behind the lids soften and sink back slightly into the skull. There is no need to look, to scan, or to perceive. The visual world is suspended. The eyes rest in the deep, velvety dark, accepting the quiet darkness as a profound and necessary shelter. This is the simplicity of the block. Nothing is required of the senses. The jaw, that ancient seat of held frustration and unspoken words, unlocks completely. Feel the slight separation between your upper and lower teeth. The tongue rests broad and heavy in the floor of the mouth. The muscles around the ears relax, releasing the need to listen intently for danger or demand. The head is simply heavy, supported, and still. We are shedding the complex definitions of self that suffering helped to create. We are stripping away the story that says, "I am defined by what hurt me," or "I am defined by what I overcame." These are merely carvings on the surface. Beneath the narrative of struggle, there is only the simple truth. I am here. I am breathing. I am safe. The quiet hum you may perceive now is not a sound from the room, but the sound of your own simplicity, the vibration of life requiring no effort. It is the sound of the uncarved block resting in the deep, silent forest. Imagine that you are dissolving into this feeling of simple, fundamental goodness. You do not need to earn it. It is your birthright. It was never lost, only overlooked. Recall the simple wisdom of the Tao. The uncarved block is the symbol of ultimate reality, the state of original nature. This original nature is incapable of malice, incapable of failure, incapable of being anything other than precisely what it is. Whole. Let this realization flood your body with a deep, saturating ease. The weight of your limbs increases dramatically now. They are not merely resting, they are sinking, merging with the support beneath them. The arms become profoundly heavy, extending from the shoulder sockets like thick, warm ropes. Feel the elbows pressing slightly into the surface, dull and unfeeling. The forearms, the wrists, the hands, they are all part of this single, dense mass. There is no desire to move, to fidget, or to shift. Movement requires effort, and in this return to simplicity, effort is entirely obsolete. You are perfect in your stillness. If the mind attempts to introduce a complex thought, a worry about tomorrow, a memory of a past slight, treat it like a stray piece of dust settling on the smooth surface of the block. Acknowledge it gently, without reaction, and then let the stillness of the surface absorb it. The thought holds no power over the fundamental piece of the block. The simplicity of Pu is the ultimate form of surrender. It is the recognition that the universe does not require your constant striving to maintain its balance. You are permitted to rest. You are encouraged to be simple. Allow your entire torso, the chest and the abdomen, to soften into a single, vast, receiving space. The gentle rise and fall of the breath is the only movement permitted, and even this is deeply passive. Feel the internal organs resting heavily within the cavity of your body. The stomach is soft, the diaphragm relaxed, releasing any lingering knots of nervous tension. This internal simplicity allows the body's systems to slow to their deepest, most restorative pace. You are returning to the state you occupied before the world taught you fear, before the world taught you judgment, before the world taught you separation. You are returning to the quiet, complete self. The suffering was a teacher, yes, showing you where your attachments lay, showing you where you built walls of self-protection. But now, the lesson is integrated, and the carving tool is set aside. The walls are softly dissolving. You are the uncarved block, heavy, dense, and perfectly whole. Sink into the realization that you do not need to be fixed because you were never truly broken. The essence of you remains pure, simple, and ready for deep, restorative rest. The silence that surrounds you is not empty. It is full of this simplicity. It is the sound of effortless existence. Listen to the quietude, letting it wrap around you like a heavy, comforting blanket. Let your consciousness drift now, becoming as simple and unformed as the block itself. You are merging with the feeling of profound, effortless ease. The body is now completely heavy, anchored to the present moment. The mind is quieted by the realization of its own fundamental goodness. This is the true foundation of peace. Not the peace achieved after a long struggle, but the peace that was always waiting beneath the surface. Allow the heaviness to deepen. Allow the stillness to become absolute. You are returning to the source, to the pure, unadorned truth of your being. Rest now, in this state of profound simplicity. Rest in the knowledge that your essential nature is untouchable, whole, and perfectly secure. Let the final thoughts of the day be swallowed by the deep, smooth texture of the uncarved block. You are sinking into the deepest integration of relaxation, prepared now for the effortless descent into peaceful, restorative sleep. Rest. Be simple. Be whole. Part 8. The dewdrop and the ocean. The breath settles now, deeper than before, finding a steady, rhythmic cadence that flows like a quiet river beneath the surface of the world. We have walked the path of suffering, not as a punishment, but as a teacher, a stern yet loving guide that leads us back to the present moment. We learned that the thorn of pain, when grasped mindfully, reveals the texture of reality itself. But the final, most profound lesson offered by suffering is not about self-mastery alone. It is about dissolving the boundary of the self entirely. Listen now to the silence that surrounds you, the deep, enveloping hush of the mountain night. Feel the warmth spreading through your chest, a gentle warmth that begins to soften the hard edges built around the heart by years of personal struggle. For too long, we carry our suffering as a unique, solitary burden, believing that the ache in our own chest is singular, unmatched, and isolating. This belief is the final knot that must be untied before true rest can arrive. Imagine that your personal pain, the specific anxiety or sorrow that has clung to you, is a single drop of water resting upon a broad, waxy lotus leaf. It trembles slightly, holding its perfect spherical form, reflecting the distorted image of the moon above. This drop is precious, contained, and seems utterly separate from everything else. It is yours. Now, gently, let the mind expand. Realize that this drop of sorrow is not unique. It is a drop shared by every living creature under the vast sweep of the night sky. The suffering you experienced, the fear, the isolation, the longing, these are universal patterns, woven into the very fabric of existence. Every human heart, every sentient being, knows the sting of separation, the pressure of impermanence, the sharp reality of loss. As this realization settles, feel the isolation begin to dissolve. You are not alone in this chamber of pain. You are part of an infinite brotherhood, sisterhood of beings who are struggling, yearning, and seeking peace just as you are. This shared recognition is the opening to karuna, the boundless compassion that asks nothing and gives everything. Draw your awareness back to the breath, slow and deep. Inhale the understanding of shared existence, exhale the isolation of self. We turn now to the ancient visualization of the dewdrop and the ocean. Picture that single, trembling dewdrop again. It rests on the leaf, perfect and small. But look closer. Within the translucent curve of that drop, what is reflected? It is the vast, dark, overwhelming expanse of the ocean. That dewdrop, though minuscule, holds the entire reflection of the infinite water source from which it temporarily separated. You are that dewdrop. Your singular experience, your specific history of pain, is the shape of the drop. But reflected within that experience is the entire, boundless ocean of universal existence, universal suffering, and universal consciousness. Your small pain is not separate from the great flow of life. It is a miniature reflection of the whole. As you breathe in, feel the cool, immense presence of the ocean, the collective experience of all beings, washing toward the shore of your awareness. As you breathe out, feel your small, contained self relaxing its surface tension, allowing the boundary between the drop and the ocean to soften. There is no need to fear merging. The drop does not disappear, it merely realizes its true nature. It was always water, and it always belonged to the ocean. Let this understanding soften the muscles of your face, releasing the tension held around the jaw and the eyes. Let the shoulders sink heavier against the surface beneath you, grounded by the weight of this profound interconnectedness. You are held, not just by the earth, but by the shared reality of every being that has ever lived, is living now, or will live. Now, we will intentionally expand this feeling of softened connection. Breathe in deeply, drawing the vastness of the cosmos into your center. As you exhale, imagine sending that gentle, softening warmth outward, beyond the confines of your own body, beyond the room you occupy, out into the night. Think of those closest to you, family, friends, loved ones. They too are dewdrops reflecting the ocean. They carry their own burdens, their own silent fears, their own moments of deep isolation. They are struggling just as you struggle. Send them the warmth of your recognition, the silent acknowledgement, I see your struggle, it is mine also. Let your compassion expand further, moving beyond the circle of familiarity. Think of those you find difficult, those who have caused friction or pain. They, too, are dewdrops. Perhaps their suffering is so great that it manifests as anger, confusion, or unkindness. The deepest wound often lashes out first. Send them the soft acknowledgement, I see your suffering. May you find peace. This is not forgiveness of action, but recognition of shared humanity. It is the dissolution of the other. Let the wave of compassion sweep further still, encompassing all beings in the world. Imagine the silent struggles occurring right now. The child who cries, the elder who fears loneliness, the creature in the wild seeking safety, the mind tormented by doubt. Visualize this wave of compassion as a silent, warm light flowing from your chest, washing over continents, oceans, and mountains. This light does not seek to fix or change anything. It simply acknowledges the truth of the shared human condition. We are all seeking happiness, and we are all encountering suffering. As you offer this boundless compassion, notice what happens to your own anxiety. When the focus shifts from the isolation of my pain to the shared reality of our pain, the personal burden lightens. The energy that was previously used to maintain the boundary of the drop is now released into the vastness of the ocean. Breathe in the vastness of the night sky now. Shift your internal gaze upward, through the ceiling, through the atmosphere, into the silent, cold expanse above. The sky is a mirror to the ocean. It is limitless, dark, and filled with ancient, slow light. See the spray of the Milky Way, millions upon millions of stars, each one a sun, each one a silent furnace burning across unimaginable distances. This light has traveled for millennia to reach your eye, a slow, patient journey across the void. You are resting beneath this history, held within this immense scale. Feel your body become small, perfectly small, against the backdrop of the cosmos. This smallness is not insignificant. It is perfect integration. Your anxieties, which seemed so large and overwhelming just moments ago, shrink down to their proper proportion. A tiny, temporary ripple on the surface of an infinite pool. You are a single point of awareness, resting on a small planet, orbiting a single star within one of countless galaxies. Yet, in this smallness, you contain the whole. Just as the dewdrop reflects the ocean, your consciousness is capable of reflecting the entire universe. Let the immensity of the night sky ground you in a deep, selfless relaxation. There is nothing to prove, nothing to achieve, nothing to fix in this moment. You are merely one perfect expression of the universe, resting. The ancient light of distant nebulae drifts silently toward you. Feel its patience, its deep, slow rhythm. Match your breath to that slow, cosmic rhythm. Inhale, the patience of starlight. Exhale, the release of personal striving. The feeling of isolation has dissolved into karuna, boundless compassion. The anxiety of uniqueness has dissolved into the certainty of belonging. There is a Zen parable of a monk who carried a heavy sack of belongings wherever he went, convinced he needed them for his journey. One day, he met a master who asked, "Why do you carry such a burden?" The monk replied, "These are the necessities of my life." The master smiled and did nothing. A few years later, the master saw the same monk, now empty-handed. "Where are your necessities?" the master asked. The monk replied, "I realize that the greatest necessity is the freedom from carrying necessities. Your suffering was the heavy sack. Now, having learned its lessons, patience, impermanence, and compassion, you are free to set it down. You realize that the greatest necessity is the freedom from the burden of believing your pain is yours alone. Let the realization of interconnectedness settle deep into your bones. The spine softens, the hips release their grip. The arms feel heavy and inert. The hands are open, palms perhaps slightly turned upward, receptive to the vast, cool energy of the night. Imagine the millions of tiny, invisible threads connecting you to every other being on Earth. Threads of shared breath, shared water, shared gravity, shared consciousness. You are not a single island. You are part of a vast, living tapestry. This feeling of belonging is the deepest form of safety. There is nothing to defend, nowhere to run, no need to contract the self. You are perfectly integrated into the cosmic flow. Savor this selfless relaxation. It is the relaxation that comes not from escaping the world, but from realizing you are the world. The breath is now effortless, merely a gentle tide rising and falling in the deep, silent harbor of your body. The chest expands softly with the inflow of air, drawing in the peace of the collective. The chest contracts gently with the outflow of air, releasing any lingering residue of the isolated self. Each inhalation is an acceptance of the vastness. Each exhalation is an offering of peace to the vastness. Your mind is like the surface of the ocean now, wide and dark, perhaps with a few slow, rolling swells, but the fierce internal storms have subsided. The reflections of the stars are clear and steady. Feel the profound silence of the universe holding you. It is a silence that is not empty, but full of ancient light, full of shared history, full of boundless compassion. Rest in this truth. The pain that taught you was never a punishment. It was merely the language the universe used to teach you how deeply you belong. And belonging is the gateway to peace. Sink deeper now into the soft, yielding knowledge of your perfect place. The dewdrop has dissolved into the ocean, and the ocean is resting. Deep relaxation settles upon the brow. Deep relaxation settles upon the heart. Deep relaxation settles into the very core of your being. You are safe. You are held. You are one. Rest. Part 9. The Path of Gentle Release. The journey of understanding is complete. The raft of wisdom has carried you safely across the troubled waters of suffering, and now it is time to step onto the shore of pure rest. You need not carry the raft further. You need not even look back at the distant waters. The lessons are absorbed, woven into the fabric of your being, and now they too may be gently set aside. All mental striving, all reflection, all effort to hold on to the insights of the day must now dissolve into the approaching silence. Feel the slow, deep rhythm of your breath as it guides you into this final, effortless surrender. It is no longer a tool for focus, but a soft, rhythmic wave carrying you away from the shore of waking consciousness. The exhalation is the key now. Allow the out-breath to lengthen, stretching far beyond its natural endpoint, releasing not just air, but every lingering trace of tension held within the core of your being. As you breathe out, imagine the very center of your chest softening, melting, becoming pliable. The heart, which has labored faithfully through the day's emotions and insights, is slowing its pace, finding a deep, subterranean rhythm that requires nothing of you. Listen for the space between the beats, that profound, quiet moment where time seems to hesitate. Allow your consciousness to sink into that pause, resting there, suspended and untroubled. Let the final vestiges of the day's reflection float away like smoke dissolving into the vast, darkening sky. The mind, having worked diligently to grasp the teaching, that suffering is not punishment but a devoted teacher, is now offered its complete vacation. There is nothing left to solve, nothing left to hold, nothing left to understand. There is only the sweet, heavy invitation of gravity. Focus now on the weight of your body, the profound, unyielding pull downward. Encourage every muscle fiber to become limp, slack, and heavy. Begin with the face, that map of daily concern. Feel the skin across your forehead smooth itself utterly, erasing the finest lines of worry or concentration. Let the muscles around your eyes become soft and yielding, as if they are sinking slightly deeper into the cushion of your skull. The eyelids are heavy, opaque curtains drawn across the windows of the mind. The jaw, often a reservoir of unspoken effort and resistance, must now be completely unlatched. Feel the hinge loosen, allowing the teeth to separate slightly, the tongue resting heavily and inertly in the floor of the mouth. The muscles of the neck, which have balanced the weight of your head and your thoughts throughout the day, now release their grip entirely. The head feels immensely heavy, settling into the pillow as if it were sinking into cool, soft earth. Move your attention down to the shoulders. These broad planes of bone and muscle have carried the burdens of responsibility and the weight of your own self-judgment. Now, they must slump, soften, and spread wide. Feel them melting away from your ears, dragging the collarbones downward, creating space and emptiness where tension once resided. Imagine the shoulder joints becoming loose, liquid, unburdened. This release flows slowly down your arms. The upper arms are heavy cylinders, weighted, still. The elbows dissolve. The forearms are thick and inert. Pay close attention to the hands, those instruments of doing and grasping. Unclench the palms completely. Let the fingers curl naturally, softly, without effort, like petals folding at twilight. Feel the faint pulse at your wrists slowing, becoming a distant, muffled echo. The hands are now simply heavy objects, resting on the surface beneath them, asking nothing of the world. The core of the body, the chest and the abdomen, is the deepest well of release. As you breathe out, feel the belly soften fully, releasing its guard. There is no need for bracing, no need for control. Allow the organs to settle, weighted by gravity, comfortable within the spaciousness you are creating. The breath is now shallow, quiet, almost invisible, just enough to sustain the gentle drift. Sensation now moves to the hips and the pelvis, the foundation of your posture. Let the hips sink deeply, spreading wide and heavy. Feel the contact points where your body meets the surface, and surrender your weight absolutely to those points. You are not holding yourself up, you are being held. Rest in that knowledge of deep support. The legs follow the path of surrender. Thighs are profoundly heavy, the muscle tissue slack and relaxed. Knees are empty joints. The calves release their tension, sinking toward the surface beneath them. Finally, the feet. Let the ankles go limp, allowing the feet to fall outward or inward naturally, without direction. The feet, which have carried you through the terrain of the day, are now utterly at rest, dissolving into the stillness. Every muscle, every tendon, every ligament is now limp, softened, and yielding. You are a form of soft clay, molded by the weight of the earth, perfectly still. Now, turn your attention to the inner landscape of the mind, the lessons of suffering, the understanding of impermanence. These are now complete. We must release the very act of reflection itself. Imagine your mind as a small, sturdy boat that has just reached the open sea, leaving the crowded, noisy harbor of the day behind. The boat is not powered by oars or sails. It is powered only by the quiet, steady current of the deep ocean. The shore, where the lessons and the concerns of the day remain, is now receding into the purple twilight. Watch the distance grow between the boat and the shore. You can still see the faint lights of the harbor, the last thoughts, the residual worries, the final mental notes. But they are growing smaller, dimmer, less distinct with every passing moment. You make no effort to steer toward them, nor do you try to push them away. You simply allow the boat to drift, effortlessly, silently, toward the horizon of sleep. The boat of your consciousness is settling deeply into the water. It is heavy and stable, rocking only gently on the expansive, calm surface. The cool, dense water cradles it completely. There is no urgency in this drift, no destination to reach, only the profound pleasure of letting go of the rudder. The sounds around you, if there are any, become the sounds of the open sea, vast, continuous, and utterly non-demanding. They are background hums of existence, not signals requiring your interpretation. They are simply part of the silence. Allow the breath to deepen its connection to the feeling of weight and sinking. With every exhalation, you sink deeper into the surface that holds you. The body is becoming a vessel filled with cool, heavy sand, settling down, down, down. If a thought arises, a final memory, a fleeting image, a fragment of tomorrow's task, do not engage with it. Do not judge it, and certainly do not try to chase it away. Simply watch it, as you would watch a piece of flotsam drift past the side of the boat. It appears, it floats by, and it disappears into the wake, leaving the vastness undisturbed. You are the observer, not the participant. The essence of this final release is profound acceptance of the present state, heavy, limp, and empty. The feeling of effort itself must now be released. Sometimes we cling to our tension even in the act of trying to relax. Now, release the effort to relax. Release the effort to breathe deeply. Release the effort to be still. Simply allow stillness to happen to you, like night falling across the landscape. Feel the profound peace in the knowledge that you require nothing of yourself now. You are not responsible for the next moment, or the next breath, or the next thought. All responsibility has been gently handed over to the universal current that sustains all things. You are simply a passenger, heavy and safe. The boat is now far from the shore. The lights of the day have vanished entirely. All that remains is the deep, velvety darkness above and the cool, supportive darkness below. This darkness is not empty. It is full of potential, full of rest. It is the space between the notes, the quiet before the dawn. Let the rhythmic slowing of your heart be the anchor to this deep peace. Each beat is a reminder of life sustained without your conscious intervention. Each beat is a lullaby, soft and steady. Feel the weight in your hands intensify. They are heavy stones resting on the earth. Feel the weight in your feet, deeply rooted, unmoving. The crown of your head is heavy. Your eyelids are heavy. Your entire body is sinking, sinking, sinking. This is the path of gentle release. We have learned that suffering is a teacher, and now we release the teacher, thanking it for the lesson and stepping into the peace that the lesson revealed. Surrender to the weight. Surrender to the stillness. Surrender to the approaching silence. Allow the boat of consciousness to drift further and further away until the movement is imperceptible and the world of thought has dissolved entirely into the soft, comforting void of rest. You are heavy. You are supported. You are free. Sleep approaches now, a gentle, welcome wave. The silent mountain. The path has dissolved beneath your feet. There are no more steps to take, no further ascents required. You have arrived. Feel the profound stillness of this summit, the place where the journey ends and the essence begins. The air here is thin, pure, and utterly motionless. It is the air of absolute integration, where all the lessons absorbed throughout the night settle into the bedrock of your being. You are standing upon the silent mountain. Look down upon the valleys of the past. You can see the winding rivers of worry, the shadowed forests of confusion, and the steep climbs of suffering. They are no longer threats. They are simply topographical features etched onto the vast map of experience. The suffering that once felt like a relentless punishment, a crushing weight meant to break you, is now revealed in its true form. It was the sculptor. It was the wind and the rain that stripped away the loose soil and the superficial dust, revealing the immutable, solid granite beneath. The suffering did not create the mountain, it merely unveiled it. It taught you the tensile strength of your own core. Rest here, in the cold, clean light of realization. Notice the quality of the silence that surrounds you. It is not the absence of sound, but the presence of stillness so profound that it swallows all noise, leaving a rich, velvety calm. This silence has a texture, like polished obsidian, cool and deep. It rests upon your eyelids, pressing lightly, gently sealing the inner world from the outer. Your mind, which was once the frantic, scrambling climber, obsessed with the next foothold, is now the mountain itself. It does not move. It does not need to brace itself against the future, nor does it lean back into the past. It simply is. It stands in the eternal present, vast and unwavering. Imagine the sheer, immense weight of this mountain. Feel that weight translate into an anchor of peace within your own body. Your hips are heavy, rooted deep into the mattress, which now feels like the earth itself. Your shoulders, once tense with the burden of expectation, are settling, spreading their weight across the surface beneath you. Every muscle fiber is releasing its long-held tension, acknowledging that there is nothing left to defend, nothing left to carry. The teaching is complete. The understanding is integrated. The suffering was never meant to be overcome. It was meant to be understood. When the potter shapes the clay, the heat of the kiln is not a punishment, but a necessary process that transforms soft, malleable earth into enduring, resonant form. You are that enduring form. You are fired, tested, and whole. Observe the clouds that drift far below the peak. These are the last remnants of thought, the wispy, ephemeral concerns about the morning, about tasks yet undone, or words left unsaid. Watch them drift. The mountain does not reach out to grasp the clouds, nor does it fear their temporary shadow. It allows them to pass. It knows that the identity of the mountain is not dependent on the weather that momentarily obscures its face. You are the mountain. Let the thoughts drift. Let them dissipate into the spaciousness of the sky. Breathe now with the slow, geological rhythm of the earth itself. The inhale is vast, drawing up the cool, mineral strength from the bedrock. The exhale is long, releasing the faint, warm vapor of the inner core, sinking you deeper into stillness. Inhale, strength. Exhale, release. There is a Zen saying that asks, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" Here, on the silent mountain, the answer is the sound of no sound. It is the silence that listens to itself. It is the profound, resonant hum of absolute presence. Allow your inner ear to open to this soundless sound. It is the vibration of perfect peace. It is the frequency of your own resting mind. This stillness is not empty. It is full. It is full of the wisdom gleaned from every experience, every stumble, and every victory. It is full of the deep, abiding knowledge that you are utterly secure. The mountain cannot be moved by a mere gust of wind, nor can your true self be shaken by a transient emotion. You are grounded. You are safe. Let us turn our attention fully now to the feeling of absolute safety. It begins in the center of your chest, a warm, steady ember of peace. Allow this warmth to spread slowly, deliberately, like sunlight warming the massive stone face of the mountain after a long night. Feel the warmth move down your arms, relaxing the elbows, the forearms, the wrists. Notice the tiny, intricate muscles in your palms and fingers, often clenched or poised for action, now softening completely. They become heavy, resting, utterly inactive. There is nothing to hold on to now. Let go. The warmth spreads into your belly, softening the organs, easing the tension held deep within your core. This is the seat of vulnerability, but here, in the absolute safety of the silent mountain, the core is protected, strong, and deeply relaxed. Allow the breath to rise and fall here, effortlessly, like a slow tide against a secure shore. Now, guide the warmth down through your hips, dissolving any residual tightness in the joints. Feel the heavy, supportive weight of your legs. The thighs relax, the knees soften, the calves release their grip. Your feet, which have carried you through this entire journey, are now perfectly still, resting. They are no longer needed for movement. They are simply anchors of peace. The mountain is still. The body is still. The mind is still. We rest in this profound stillness, this integrated peace. The suffering is no longer a shadow to flee, but a teacher whose presence has illuminated the path to this summit. You owe it nothing but gratitude for the strength it helped reveal. Now, the teacher bows and steps back, leaving you alone with the wisdom. The sun is setting on this inner landscape. The light that bathed the peak in clarity is softening, deepening into the rich indigo of twilight. This fading light is your gentle guide across the final threshold into deep, restorative sleep. The vastness of the mountain now begins to shrink, not in size but in focus. You are drawing your awareness inward, away from the grand landscape, toward the cozy, warm cave at the mountain's base, the shelter of your own deep rest. You are entering the quietest chambers of your being, where the silence is so dense it feels like a heavy, comforting blanket being drawn up to your chin. There is no sound here, save for the slow, muffled rhythm of your own heart, a steady, unwavering drumbeat marking time toward deep rest. The surface thoughts are gone. The residual anxieties are gone. All that remains is the profound reassurance of this moment. You are protected by the strength you have cultivated. You are held by the earth beneath you. You are breathing a rhythm of perfect peace. Let your consciousness drift now, effortlessly. Imagine yourself sinking deeper and deeper into the soft, dark earth. Each breath is a descent. Each beat of your heart is a confirmation of safety. The mind is releasing its final attachments to wakefulness. It is letting go of the need to understand, the need to control, the need to observe. It is simply surrendering to the natural gravitational pull of sleep. You are crossing the boundary now. The world of form is fading. The world of thought is dissolving. There is only the sensation of sinking, floating, and deep, deep rest. Rest in the knowledge that you are whole. Rest in the knowledge that you are taught. Rest in the knowledge that you are secure. The mountain stands guard over your sleep. It is unmoving, constant, and utterly peaceful. Allow the darkness to envelop you completely. Allow the silence to hold you securely. You are safe. You are resting. You are sinking. Deeper, deeper. Let the voice fade now, leaving only the profound stillness of the silent mountain to accompany you into the deepest, most restorative peace. Deep, peaceful sleep.